So many of you will have realized there's only one thing between you and lunch, and it's me and this presentation. So I'm going to go really, really quickly. I'm going to be sharing lots and lots of data, and all that data is a lot of this data is in this guide available in stand 4. So I'm talking about the shifting role of trust and financial well-being. Salary finance, very quickly, our mission is to help millions of people around the world to become financially healthier and happier, and we do that by partnering with people like yourselves to develop financial well-being strategies and provide salary-linked employee benefits. So I'm going to start off first. Well, I'm going to give you some good news, and I'm going to give you some even better news. So the first good news is all based on the Edelman Trust Report. Edelman is a not-for-profit group, and they do this huge survey asking people who they trust. And here's some very, very interesting data, is that people basically trust, 47% of people trust media, 48% government, finance companies 57%, NGOs 57%. But the institution that has the highest level of trust is actually you, the employer. 75% of people will trust their employer. And what is it that they trust their employer about? Is that they want certainty about lots of things, about not media nor government, and so they trust the employer to help them, inform them about what's happening in the global economy. 72% of people will use their employer to get information about what's going on in the global economy, and 58% in terms of relying on their employer in terms of what's happening in technology. And employee expectations now also include societal change. And so they ask is that, what is a strong expectation that's a pink and a deal breaker? The interesting thing is that 67% of employees, of people, actually now wanting for their employer to have a greater impact, have a greater purpose, so that they, in their job, can have a purpose and an impact on society. And when you compare that with personal empowerment, 74% is almost equal. Right? So this is really, really interesting in terms of what employees are asking from you. And what's the impact of trust? Is that this is what, again, from the Edelman Trust Report, is that if people who don't trust their employer, there's only 52% of them show or are committed to their employer, versus 83%. In terms of engagement is quite low. Only about a third of people who don't trust are engaged with their employer, versus 71%. And in terms of loyalty, 36 versus 74. And again, in terms of advocacy, in promoting the employer and promoting a great place to work, promoting the products and services, 39 versus 78%. So those organizations, those employers that have built that trust with the employee, there is a lot to gain that is of mutual benefit to both the employee and the employer. This next study is from results are from a Deloitte study on millennials, and what they ask is that what should be the business try to do, and what do they believe the organization's priorities are. So I'm going to focus on where there's a mismatch. Is that you'll see here is that generate jobs, improve society. Millennials believe that's a primary objective or a very strong objective. They feel this is an area where employers can do more on, and similarly in enhance lives and improve the environment. And again, this echoes what came in the Edelman Trust Report, and it shows that here's an opportunity for employers to further increase the trust. And here are some other ways in which you can actually further increase the trust that you already have between yourselves and your employees. And a lot of this you're already doing. Professional development, of course, is that if you care about them, they'll start caring about you. CSR, physical well-being, mental health. And today I'm also going to talk about financial well-being and how you can actually increase trust through financial well-being. The first thing I'm going to do is say, what is financial well-being? Well, I don't know if you ever had one of these, but I had one of these very recently, and I got really, really annoyed that I had it. Now, I also knew that when I got home, I threw this parking ticket on top of my other unread mail. I knew I had to pay it off. What I was going to do is I was going to go to work, and I was going to then pay it off at work during my lunch break. But of course, what happened, I forgot the parking ticket, couldn't remember the website, couldn't remember the phone number, got really frustrated, couldn't pay it. I thought, I'll do it when I get home. When I get home, I didn't end up doing it because I just didn't want to deal with it after a long day at work. And this whole cycle basically repeated for 4 weeks. At the end of the 4 weeks, I finally got that parking ticket in my bag, got it to work, and I managed to pay the parking ticket off, but by that time it had doubled in price. And I got really, really annoyed, really, really frustrated. Now, all those things is that for those 4 weeks, for about 20 minutes, I got myself worked up that I had this parking ticket, and it then took me some time to calm myself down and get back into my Zen-like state before I could do my work again. And that happened 20 minutes every day for 20 days over those 4 weeks. And that's what basically what poor financial well-being is. It's already nice, but it's also school trips, it's monthly gym fees, it's car road tax, parking tickets, and the list goes on, right? So it's basically everyday life. And these are the kinds of things that are impacting you. And also, we had a situation where we are in today, is when I was 30, which was back in 1995, that was the average salary in the UK and the average house price, so 2.7 times multiple. Nowadays, it's 7.9 times multiple. It's really, really tough out there. These are ordinary things that we would kind of normally expect for granted, that are causing all this kind of financial worries. And what's the impact of this is that we've done a survey, 2 surveys over the last 2 years, 12,500 employees that we've surveyed, and we've found this, is that 36% of employees have got financial worries. They're 14.6 times more likely to have sleepless nights. As a result of those worries is that they spend 2.7 hours a week, every week, thinking about their personal finances. They take 1 day off sick. They are 8.5 times more likely to have a quality impact on their work, and they are 12.4 times more likely not to be able to finish daily tasks. Now, all this quality impact and all this not being able to do the task is that somebody is doing that work, and it's their colleagues that are doing that work, and as a result of their colleagues taking up the slack of this particular individual that has financial worries, is that they are 7.7 times more likely to have troubled relationships with their work colleagues, and 1.5 times more likely to be looking for a new job. All of that impacts consequences, 20 to 29 productive days lost annually, additional training costs, additional recruitment costs. And all of that adds up to a whopping 9 to 13% of a salary payroll costs. Now, a lot of people say is that, but surely is that, financial worries are all about pay. Well, it's somewhat true, and you'll see that those people that are on lower incomes, they have the high level of financial worries, and it's somewhat true that as you pay more, financial worries come down. But even at the lowest level, those that are earning between £40,000 and £100,000, it's still 29% of people have financial worries, almost a third. Okay? If it was true that it was all about pay, that number would go down to 0 or very close to 0. And then, of course, it goes up surprisingly, up to 46%, those people that earn over £100,000. I'll explain, I won't go into the reason why we think that is, but there's some really, really weird things going on in here. So what we did is that we realized that actually if it's not about pay, then what is it? So we did we put together a financial fitness score, which is 10 questions on various behavioral aspects of how you spend, borrow, and save. And based on those 10 questions, 10 responses, you end up being 1 of 5 financial fitness levels. You can be a struggler. Now, strugglers end up not being able to make it to payday 10 to 12 times a year. Copers are not getting to payday about twice a year. Builders have got to payday, but they have less than 1 month's worth of savings. Planners have got more than 3 months' worth of savings, and prosperous finances are no longer a constraint to the way that they're living their lives. Now, when you look at the distribution of those strugglers, copers, planners, and prosperers, is that I want to point out is that the distribution hasn't changed much between 2018 and 2019, and there's 3 things I want you to point out here. Firstly, is that there's a big group of copers, and secondly, there's a big group of planners, and you'll see that there are 2 peaks here. So there's a natural population of copers and a natural population of planners. And those that have the highest level of financial worries, 89% and 62%, are the copers. Okay? And so what's the difference between copers and planners and all these people? The first, the automatic assumption is that these people do not understand the importance of savings. But you'll see here, right across the board, right across the board is that 88% or above people, right across the board, they understand the importance of savings. Then you might think, well, maybe they don't know how to budget, but actually very few do not know and understand how to budget. So what is it? Well, we asked them, is that, to what extent do you stick to your budget? And, a lot of this thing is that financial well-being is a little bit like physical well-being. We all know that we need to eat healthier and do more exercise. But those of us that stick to that habit will get financially, physically healthier. And the same thing with finances as well. We all know we need to save money and we need to be better at budgeting. If you stick to the habit, and you'll see in here, is that prosperers and planners, a bigger percentage of them stick to the habit. Now, what's that all equate to? Is that we ask people, how much do you save a month and how much do you have in total savings? So copers save on average £91 a month. So they do save something. Versus planners, 249. That's 2.7 times more that they're saving. But if you look at their total savings, however, you'll see it's 818 versus 6,651. And that's 8 times difference. The reason is that when copers are saving, is that every now and again they dip into their savings. They dip into their savings, they kind of swipe right, whereas prosperers are more likely, planners are more likely not to dip into their savings. So their persistent habits really pay off. Now, what are the differences between the copers and the planners? Is that copers tend to spend first and save whatever's left over, which is usually a big fat zero. Whereas planners, what they do is they save first and then they spend whatever's left over. Copers tend to live more in the present rather than the future, and planners tend to live more in the future than the past. So my brother and I, there's only a 15-month age difference between the two of us. We both used to get pocket money. He used to save his pocket money up, and he was delighted to spend it at the weekend. I saved my pocket money up, and I'd save it, and I'd spend it on my birthday. He was having fun every weekend. I was having fun on my birthday. There's no right or wrong, but that's basically, there's a difference between copers and planners. Now, the main thing is, I want to come back to trust, okay? You notice this, that only 57% of people trust finance companies. And I want to go into, what that means in terms of for planners and copers that are in your organization. Is that copers find finance a scary topic, 71% and 62%. And they also find finances incredibly difficult to interpret. As a result of this is that they tend to be quite disengaged with anything to do with finance, which unfortunately ends up impacting ultimately their credit score and their ability to actually get a loan. And you'll see here is that if you're a coper, you are 4 times more likely to be refused a loan than a planner, and staggering 27 times more likely to be refused a loan if you're a struggler versus a prosperer. Now, what that means is that copers and strugglers end up paying ultra-high interest rate. What we put in here is that the typical bank rates that you go in here, if you're a coper, you've probably got a poor credit history, you've been refused a loan from a bank, the only resort that you have are extortionate payday loans, and if you're a struggler, it's going to be even more predatory loan lenders. And so they're in this kind of situation. Now, what happens is the following. Is that if there happens to be an unexpected drop in their income or an unexpected expense, it could be the boiler breaking down or a car needs a new set of tires, is that what happens is their expense is greater than their income, they've got limited or no available savings, which we've already seen, they need to borrow, they can't go to a bank, they have a poor credit score, they end up taking very, very high cost debt, increased financial worry, interest expense increases, and a deteriorating well-being. And once you're in that loop, there is no way out. It's incredibly difficult for you to get out because, incredibly difficult for you to get out of that loop. Incredibly difficult. So, when we look at trust amongst the average of trust that we basically, we also asked the same question in our survey, is 77% on average. And this is how trust is among strugglers, copers, builders, planners, and prosperers. It's very, very high right across the board. They still trust you. And that trust has incredible value for the employees, okay? Because you can help them in terms of getting out of this. And you can help them through salary-linked benefits. And the reason why you can help them is that if you have salary-linked savings product, is that what happens is that the savings goes out their salary first, and it goes into another account, and so that enables them to basically save first and spend whatever's left over, and that effectively makes them look like a planner. With salary-linked loans, they can also are much, much lower cost, They can enable to consolidate high-cost debt. Advances can help them stop getting in debt in the first place. And then financial education starts building the habits afterwards so that they can improve their financial well-being. So all of that is that salary-linked financial well-being benefits can actually make copers look like planners. And in terms of interest rate savings, is that it's quite much lower interest rates than you would normally get. So what then happens is that if you have an employee that happens to be stuck in this doom loop, and it could be anywhere between 20 and 40% of your employee base could be in this kind of crisis, is that you'll be able to do that and help them consolidate and reduce their debt. That would improve their credit score as well over time. One of the things is that if you take out a payday loan, it will negatively impact your credit history, and a high street lender will not lend to you for anywhere between 3 and 5 years. So now you've consolidated debt, you've reduced your interest expense, and therefore you've now got a boost. Your income is now greater than your expenses. You'll be able to set aside something in savings, and now you're going to have a decreased stress and anxiety. And you help the employee get out of a crippling situation. Now, before you can do any of this thing, the other thing is that the money is the last great taboo in the workplace. There's a survey that was launched very recently by BITC, and they asked, to what extent are you ready and prepared to talk about mental health at work? And the survey said that 52% of people are ready to talk about mental health at work, but only 13% of people are ready to talk about their personal finances, based on our survey here. And the reason why there is taboo is that people won't talk about things if there is fear of being judged. And if the relationship between the employer and the employee is like a parent-child relationship, then you're going to have that issue. And so what we suggest is that one of the things you can do is start to have adult conversations. If there's less fear of being judged, then there's more likely that people are going to be talking. If there's more people talking and trust increases, then you're going to be able to get all of those additional benefits. I'm going to end finally on a video from one of our clients, Simply Health, of how financial well-being helped them in their organization.
It's important for our employees to be happy and stress-free in the workplace. By providing something from salary finance, where you've got financial education, loans and savings, can take away some of those stresses that employees have in their home life, which then helps them in their work life to be more positive and proactive. We started with the Borrow product and Learn product, which is a financial education portal, in October 2017. And then a year later, we then decided to take up the Save product and roll that out to our employees. All our employees that utilise the...
Oh, did I press the button? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got buttonitis, sorry. Can you speed it up then? Okay, well, can you do it manually? Or not really? Okay, all right, fine. Anyway, this is, you'll get to lunch earlier. It's a 2-minute video. Anyway, these are some of the people that we work for. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be able to get, another minute extra for you to have lunch. Any questions? Thank you.